So pleased to welcome to the show a lifetime resident of South LA. She's never lived outside of the 405, 110, 105, 10 freeway enclosed area. All right. She lives with her mom, in helping her with her day-to-day life as her mom is losing her hearing. She is a native Angelino, graduated from a high school within a mile of her home. And she's also a writer working on several book projects, as well as being a community organizer with the LA Tenants Union. Zerita Jones, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I should say welcome back. You know, you were on Saturday, and we just didn't have enough time to answer people's questions or to go deep into this issue at a time when really people need answers around their rights and their responsibilities.
Well, I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
So first of all, explain to me what the LA Tenants Union is and what is it that you guys really do?
Well, the Los Angeles Tenants Union is actually a group of tenants that volunteer to help other tenants learn their rights and be advocates for themselves. And we've always gave away free books, materials, hosted renters' rights workshops every month. There's 15 different chapters. And we've always concentrated on if a tenant was being harassed or threatened, or if the utilities were shut off or illegal opt-out or served with a notice or had habitability issues, and they just didn't know what to do. So that's something we've always done. But this new COVID-19 has brought us a brave new world.
Yeah, it really has just changed everything. I'm sure you guys are way more busy than usual. I was surprised on Saturday. I didn't realize you guys had so many branches. Now, you're with the Baldwin Hills branch, right? But you said there's 12 different branches?
Yes. I originally got, I guess you could sweep up into this whirlwind of tenants' rights when the city had filed a nuisance abatement lawsuit on the property where I was. So I got involved. We went in, we created a tenant association really, really quickly. My complex has 425 units. We went into court, we battled them, but there were organizations that helped. And the South LA Los Angeles Tenants Union was one of them, along with the YJC, DSA, and a few others. And with that being said, I went back right after our issues were settled, and I volunteered, and I started helping. And that's what we are. We're a bunch of tenants that have gone through something that come back and help the other tenants. So by the time January of 2019 came around, I was the actual co-founder of the Baldwin Emerge Crenshaw local of the Los Angeles Tenants Union that's sitting right in the Emoji Center in the Merck Park. And it's also the home of the Crenshaw Subway Coalition and Liberty Community Land Trust.
Sort of a one-stop activist spot. What does that mean that they filed a nuisance abatement? Like someone complained about something that was happening on your property and then you had to defend your right to be there? I mean, how does that even work?
Well, actually, it wasn't. It was all regarding us being that one block from that Expo Farmdale line, the Metro stop. And so we're on 17 acres. And everyone in the Crenshaw corridor in the community knows what's going on. We're being gentrified. So the best way to get rid of a massive amount of people is to put a nuisance abatement lawsuit on the property. They labeled everyone here a cocaine salesperson and a gangster and or a gangbanger. And to me, that left me nothing else to do but fight. So we did obtain lawyers from the Los Angeles Legal Aid Foundation, which was fantastic, by the way. And we went into court. We represented the things that we needed. And, of course, we're still here. So it all works
and
out.
That's the bottom line. You're still there. Right. So how have things changed, in your opinion, during the pandemic? I mean, I know that the LA County is under under an eviction moratorium, which means if you live anywhere within LA County, you're not supposed to be evicted. And I know it's been extended until September 30th. I know some other cities have their own. LA has their own, and other cities have their own. And some of those have greater protections, like you have longer to pay back, or, different kinds of things like that, than others. But so maybe explain that, and then explain how, from your point of view, things have changed for the work of the LA Tenants Union in this period of time.
Wow, that's a loaded question, but
yeah, I know.
Yes.
Sorry.
The issue is that so many different areas have different rules and guidelines, but we should all be going by the governor's mandate. So he passed an ordinance, and he extended our actual state of emergency till September 30th. So literally, we should all be looking at that day to revisit on whether we can open up successfully or slowly open up again. But that's not what's happening. Okay, so the confusion comes in when every single mini city inside of the county has their own different set of rules. So we have the county rules, we have LA rules, we have Inglewood rules, and and half the time people don't know whether they're living in the actual county or not, whether they're covered or not, whether they're RSO unit, which is a rent stabilized unit. And that's what the tenants union is for, is to let the person know where they live and try to help them navigate what guidelines that they're falling under. Because it changes. Unfortunately, it changes. Now they want to reopen the eviction courts that have been closed down, and filings are going to happen. So we're prepared, we're geared up to try to help as many people as we possibly can. And I'm hoping I answered all of that question. It's kind of early for me.
Yeah, I know it's early, but yeah, I mean, I think it does. So if I'm a tenant, I know that it's my responsibility to inform my landlord if I'm not going to be able to pay my rent. And that goes across every city, county, throughout the state. There is also a national moratorium, but I think that expired on Friday, if I'm not mistaken. So, but pretty much anywhere you are, you have to write to your landlord and say, I'm not going to be able to pay my rent because of COVID, and make that clear in writing, right?
Yes, and actually with the Los Angeles Tenants Union, we formulated a food not rent forgiveness guide, and it can be obtained online at the latenantsunion.org. And the reason is because most people didn't know what to say in their letters to inform their landlord, or they didn't realize that it had to be in writing. And that's key. That's number one. That's how you get that communication across. You tell them exactly what's going on. And every month that you can't pay, a letter needs to be communicated with them. So you find out that a lot of tenants don't even understand that communications have to be in writing regarding your property. They want to make a phone call. No, it has to be in writing. It has to be dated. It has to be signed. And it's unable to pay your rent. And we've had attorneys to assist us in creating a simple letter. Now, there are other letters out there. There are letters that are by the California Apartment Association that incorporated in the letter is an agreement, a promise to do this. No, they don't want you to make any promises right now, because the date when this is over, we don't know when that date is. How are you going to make promises to start paying something that, one, you don't know when the end is coming? There's supposed to be a 90-day extension beyond that for you to get back to your regular rent payment. And then you have a year to pay off the money that you didn't pay for rent during the active state of emergency time, which of course is the March 4th date, all the way till the date that the governor gave us when this was over. So
now
it's not open.
So the 1 year date, I thought that was only City of Los Angeles. That's statewide?
No.
That you have a year to pay it off?
Each county is different, but the governor has not declared this emergency over. That's the key.
Right.
I'm talking about our city of Los Angeles.
Right. So, but the key point of what you said right there is, and this is the same thing Attorney Donna Jumfie was saying too, is that you don't want to sign anything making a promise, even though you're paranoid and worried, and you're not used to not paying your rent. You don't want to sign something because that can actually override the rights that you've been extended under the moratorium.
Correct. She's absolutely 100% correct. And we're advising tenants to not sign anything except for the letter of communication. And we've prepared that, and it's free to everyone. And it's quick, it's easy, it's simple. But we're also saying that please find your local Los Angeles Tenants Union, join, and also give them a copy of that letter because there's strength in numbers. Okay.
So what does it mean to join? I mean, is there a fee? Where do I sign up? What does that actually mean? Do I have to attend meetings? What does that mean to join the LA Tenants Union?
It's all of the above. It's all of the above. And remember, it's a complete 100% volunteer organization. The way that the dues work is if you do have a job, it's $5 a month. And if you don't have a job and you're on limited income, it's $1 a month. And generally what that $1 would do would cover the cost of the guide that was free to the next person. And that's the way we keep it going. So,
right. That's how, you have to have resources to keep printing guides and such like that. So you can sign up on the website, I imagine.
Yes. And you can pick your local chapter. When I originally started in January of 2019, I was actually number 9. There had been 8 chapters. I was number 9. And now we have 15. So
15, wow.
Here has changed.
Right. So that's partly the pandemic and people freaking out. So I want to, talk about the steps, right? Let's say August 1st just passed and I know that I can't pay. Maybe I've been paying up until now. I know that I can't pay. The first step is to write to my landlord as close as possible to August 1st, right?
Yes. Well, they usually say communicate at least by the step. And put that letter in writing, sign it, date it, and tell them that you can't pay your rent and send it to your landlord. They're telling you also to send a copy of that same letter to your local Los Angeles Tenants Union. Of course, you keep a copy for yourself, and you send one to your local council person and to our wonderful mayor.
Okay. This is part of what we always talk about, leaving a paper trail. You have to have a paper trail. And that letter has to say that you're not paying because of COVID. It's not just like, hey, I don't feel like paying my rent, right? If you can pay your rent, pay your rent. If you can pay your rent and eat, by the way.
Oh, definitely. I mean, that was the whole cause, because so many people in the city of Los Angeles and everywhere for that matter are living one paycheck away from homelessness or not being able to pay their rent. Or so many people are utilizing 50%, 60 to 80% of their income just to pay rent, and there's very little left over. So during this pandemic, when prices are rising, you have to stay sheltered in place. You need to, make sure you have food, medicine, and supplies within your house. That is what it's about. It's about staying home, stay stocked up, make sure you have food, and just staying alive.
Yeah. But, I think, there are some folks that can pay. If you can pay. And I think that's important, too, because this is not like forgiveness, at least not so far. It is just stalling. At some point, you're going to have to pay it. You don't want to have so much rent piled up that you can't get out from under it. And honestly, I don't, most of us, can pay our monthly rent or mortgage, and we don't have a lot of extra left over to be paying an extra month, on top of that later, or half a month or anything like that.
Correct. Yes, because rent can pile up very, very quickly, especially here in the city of LA. And by all means, and we've always encouraged, if you can pay your rent, pay your rent. If you are compromised by paying it, and you can't go out in COVID and make more money, because that's what this is about. It's about people that are losing their jobs, their businesses are closing down. They're not making the income. So you're holding on to what little you have to survive. So we're not saying if you can pay your rent, please don't pay your rent and go out and have parties with the money or do something of that nature. No, because that money is going to become due. You only have 12 months after the 3 month or the 90-day extension to start paying this back. And you're right. Just imagine if a person's rent is $1,000 and they don't pay that for 6 months, that's a $6,000 bill that they have to add on to 12 months after this. So that means they'll be paying $1,500 a month for 12 months. That's a steep one. And that's if they can go back to work, but if they have a job.
Yeah, it's good to think ahead like that. You mentioned on Saturday that the LA Tenants Union is also for landlords, and that was the first time I ever heard that.
Well, everyone thinks that the Los Angeles Tenants Union, because it's a tenants union, there's only tenants as members. No, we have landlords, we have mom and pop landlords, because our whole premise was to fight against the bad landlords. Just remember, bad landlords that harass their tenants and remove amenities and don't fix their apartments. They make all landlords look bad, and everyone's not that way. So yeah, we have landlords that are part of the Los Angeles Tenants Union that help, that volunteer, and our whole I guess you could say campaign is to cancel rents and mortgages. I mean, sure, a lot of people shorten it and say rent because there's a heck of a lot of renters, but it's cancel rent and mortgages, because we know that if people can't pay rent, those mom and pop landlords are going to suffer also, because they still have to pay the tax. Yeah,
that's a great point. That is a great point. What are some of the biggest misconceptions that people have out there, that are really problematic for renters right now?
What? Ask that question again.
The biggest, the things people are getting wrong, things people misunderstand that they think they have to do or think they don't have to do, that are getting them in trouble right now.
I think not understanding that you need to communicate in writing is number one. Two, not getting other people that can help you and get the information, getting involved with, it doesn't actually have to be the Los Angeles Tenants Union. There's a host of other organizations that are out there. There's SAGE, there's ACE, there's at least 10 that operate within, my little section of the city, and I call that South Central. But you have to get the information. Things are changing too quickly. You have to know what is covered, like I was saying, whether your house is a rent-controlled unit or not rent-controlled unit in the city of LA, in the county portion, even in Inglewood. So there's an Inglewood and a Lennox tenants union. So you have to get the information, because if you don't get it, that means you're either uninformed or half-informed, and all of that is detrimental.
Now, I've been hearing from people, via email and even on the phone. And by the way, if you have any questions, comments, or conversation regarding, rent, your own status as a tenant, or, your own opinion, 520-KJLH, 520-5554, just to add your area code on the front of that. I've been hearing a lot of people saying that they are getting harassed by their landlord, even though there's a moratorium and they're not meant to be evicted right now, that some are trying to evict anyway, or some are trying to get them out of there. putting different kinds of pressure on tenants. Are you hearing that as well?
Oh, definitely. That is happening daily, every day, all day, all across the city of Los Angeles. And those are illegal lockouts. We're hearing about those self-help lockouts, and we've had to actually put together a rapid response team for that. And anytime a landlord takes it upon themselves to try to remove a tenant, either by the ultimate harassment or changing the locks and locking them out off the property, like locking the gate or whatever they do, it's illegal. So it seems to me that everyone's forgetting this is because we have a virus that is killing people. Everyone needs to shelter in place. They need to be safe. And every person's situation is different. So we still have to worry about those tenants that have children that are not in school, that will not be in school this year. They're talking about opening the schools. Well, I don't think that's a good idea because we're having an upturn in cases and it's affecting children.
Right. And we know they're not opening in California anytime soon because the governor has already ordered them closed. And so you can't really go to school online if you're living in the streets. Let's go to Sam calling us from Gardena. Sam, you're on with Zerita Jones of the LA Tenants Union. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. I just have a quick question. If you're able to pay your rent, but you're late with it, can the landlord charge you a late fee?
So you're paying during the pandemic. Does that eviction moratorium, does it prevent a late fee for Sam or all of us?
Yes, it does. As a matter of fact, they're not supposed to increase your rent even at the time for a rental increase, meaning the annual increase that was prior to COVID allowable, and no late fees, and not getting your credit. So, yes.
Okay, you learn something new every day on the front page. I did not know that. Landlords are not allowed to charge late fees during COVID-19, and apparently I knew they weren't allowed to raise the rent. But that's good information. 520-KJLH, 520-5554. Zerita Jones, give me an example, if you would, of a situation, the kind of situation you're seeing, with some landlords overstepping their bounds in terms of what they're allowed to do with the tenants. I mean, you mentioned people actually being locked out by the landlords. We know that's illegal. But give me an example of some of the other kinds of things people are dealing with that are actually illegal, which some folks might not realize are illegal.
Well, after you've given your letter and you've informed the landlord that you're unable to pay for this particular month, constant harassment is illegal. Shutting off the utilities, which I've had numerous phone calls, is illegal. Withholding tenants' mail is illegal. Locking them out, of course, is illegal. So we have a host of all of these things happening. I've had one of the tenants come home and all of their belongings, after work, was sitting in the driveway. That's illegal. Okay. So I've had another tenant, I don't know if I mentioned it on the last call, she went to walk her dog. And when she came back, the locks were changed. So all she had was the leash, the dog, the poo-poo bag, a phone, and her keys. And all of her belongings, including her purse and wallet, were locked inside. So That's illegal. So everyone has to remember that any time they block the access for you to get into your property, remove the doors, and we've had that happen to your property. Remove your personal property, your furnishings. Anytime they terminate or interrupt your utilities, all of that is illegal. Stealing and trying to extort money. I've even had some landlords pursue some of the young women in exchange for sexual favors for their rent. All of that is illegal. That is why we have the Los Angeles.
What happens if you experience any one of those things? I mean, what do you do? What's the next step?
Well, it depends on the severity. The first thing you do is you call the police, especially with the request for the sexual papers. Then if you have an illegal lockout, at first what we were doing is we were calling the police and we were showing that that the person lived there. But sometimes the police take the side of the landlord. They'll call them a squatter. They'll start making up, which is just part of harassment, but they'll make up things, and it can go either way. So now we've stopped doing that, and we've called in our own rapid response team. So that way you have a bunch of union members that are there that can assist you in getting you back into your apartment, that can be witnesses for you, that can take pictures for you, and assist you in this self-advocacy, and have you an attorney. Because we've actually had attorneys out there during a lockout. So we have an entire team of solidarity attorneys that will assist the tenants.
All right, let's go to Paula calling us from Baldwin Hills. Good morning, Paula.
Good morning, Dominique. How are you?
I'm blessed. Good to hear your voice.
Good. Happy birthday to me, first and foremost. I'm doing my birthday situation.
Leo, Leo, Leo.
Yes, I am. Thank you. But, Dominique, I'm calling in regards of what if a person, say, for instance, are paying some parts of their rent if they can't pay it all, and the landlord don't want to accept it. What does the person do?
Oh, that's situation? Weird. So a person trying to pay partial rent, the landlord won't accept it. Sounds like that landlord is trying to maybe build a case for eviction. Could that be?
Okay. Yeah.
What do you say, Zerita?
Well, I've actually had this situation before also.
Excuse me, Paula, can you turn your radio down for a moment?
Yeah, I did. Uh-huh.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Zerita Jones.
I've actually have one of these cases right here on my desk right now. And what we advise is to give them the letter. Because, of course, if you're not paying all of your rent and you're willing to pay some, it's still unable to pay. So, and if they refuse to accept it, you definitely send a letter, because that is what protects you further on down the line, that you've communicated the fact that you couldn't pay. Second of all, I advise for the person to get that money into a money order, because it gives you a date stamp that when you had this money available, and if they're refusing to accept it, the first thing you really want to do is have it. So every month, if you can only pay half or only pay a portion, I still say send that letter and put that portion for that month into a money order, and you can also mention it into the letter. I'm willing to pay, or I attempted to pay X amount of dollars, and since it was refused, I'll be holding it. Because
okay, so you're saying write the letter and say, I can't pay because of COVID, and it has to say because of COVID, and then you say, I offered this amount and it was refused, or I paid this amount, and then you back that up by paying with a money order so that you have a paper trail of the date you paid or were trying to pay and the amount.
Yes.
Paula, does that make sense to you? Does that answer your question? Okay. We lost Paula, but I'm pretty sure she got the message.
And then I also advise the person to put to address that money order to whomever they normally pay it to, or their own name, in case they need to deposit that back in their bank and they don't want to go through all that rigmarole.